I quickly found when I did this for myself that, I didn't really like doing things like payroll or verification of employment or writing job descriptions, like little tasks throughout the day that I just really didn't find joy in doing or took up a lot of time or just required a lot of follow through that didn't fit into my Kolby, which I'll touch on in a minute. And lo and behold, at the end of a week, there was enough in those bottom quadrants of don't like to do, not really good at, that could really fit into a job description, and enough so that it was a full seat for someone else to do. Hey there, welcome back to the Catalyst Podcast. I'm your host, Sonia Pedowick, and today we're going to talk about hiring. This is a super fun topic because originally this year, Touring Consulting, my other company, is celebrating 10 years, and that company is solely focused on hiring individuals here in the Las Vegas market. So I feel like in addition to the 10 years that I've had that business, I've been in the staffing industry for 10 more years before that. And so it's been fun really helping people find jobs, specifically in the arena of information technology. And we've recently branched out into finance and accounting and administration. And then when I got into mastermind work and coaching, helping businesses identify when they need to hire has been a real fun transition. And particularly for my team, that's always been a challenge to figure out like when to hire, how to hire for the right seat, and RPRS, right person, right seat. So there's a few different tools that I've used with that. One of them is a tool that I learned when I was doing some traction coaching, which is from the Entrepreneurial Operating System, a book written by Gino Wickman. And that was a tool that was called the Elevate and Delegate tool. And that's really a piece of paper that you can just put on your desk as a business leader, owner, or you can give it to your staff when they start to complain about having too much workload or just identifying when they may need to hire. It's 4 quadrants. And in the upper left one, it's things that they really like to do and or feel like they're good at. And the upper right, the things that they like to do and they feel like they are good at. Bottom left is things that they don't like to do, that they're okay at, and things in the bottom right are things that they don't like to do and they're not really good at. And as they go through their tasks throughout the day for maybe a week or so, they put things into each of those quadrants. So, I quickly found when I did this for myself that, I didn't really like doing things like payroll or verification of employment or writing job descriptions, like little tasks throughout the day that I just really didn't find joy in doing or took up a lot of time or just required a lot of follow through that didn't fit into my Kolby, which I'll touch on in a minute. And lo and behold, at the end of a week, there was enough in those bottom quadrants of don't like to do, not really good at, that could really fit into a job description, and enough so that it was a full seat for someone else to do. And if you took those pieces out, everything I've written, and then clean it up a little bit, you actually already had a job description that you could write and post. And then the things that were in the upper quadrants were things that I really love to do, even higher ticket dollars that were worth my time, were things that I was like, look, I need to spend more time in that area. These are things that bring me joy in the business. These are things that bring revenue into the business. This is where I should spend time in my seat. And it helped define the time was right to hire somebody else onto the team. And then taking it a step further, it was early in pandemic that I was introduced to Gail Swift, who I think you all were introduced on an earlier podcast. You can look at previous episodes when I was introduced to the Kolby. And I've had many assessments done that were more about personality, like DISC, Myers-Briggs, Enneagram, that really were like, what kind of person was I, a promoter? Was I high energy? Was I a controller type person, or people on my team, like how were their personalities? But the Kolby was really key to unlocking a lot of different things for me. It actually originally came into context for me at the beginning of COVID when I was trying to learn how to be a stay-at-home mom that was becoming a homeschooling teacher. Because as many of you know, all of our kids were thrust into our households, and I was learning how to manage my business from home, but also how to educate and teach my kids, who all 3 of them were very different at how they manage their time, how they manage their tasks. And so when Gail introduced me to and assessed myself, my husband, my kids, I learned like how they were motivated, how they took action in the different things and tasks that they did, how they lined up their days to do work, what they needed to take work. And it was like groundbreaking for me that my oldest son, Noah, and I took action very differently than my daughter and my husband. And then my son, who's just actually 15 today, he's very different than all of us. And so learning how to help them organize their day, learning when I needed to like pump the brakes and let them do the work the way that they needed to do the work instead of being on them. Like, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? Why aren't you doing your work this way? Was very eye-opening for me. And then when I talked to Gail even further, learning how to take that elevate and delegate work that I had done and couple it with the Kolby and learn that I could actually post a job to attract someone based on what they needed to do in the workplace and mirror it to what I needed someone to do in the workplace. And it would attract the right person because people are attracted to jobs that fit their needs. And if they took a job that didn't fit their needs, they would experience stress, and therefore I would experience stress managing them. It all just made perfect sense for me. And I learned that I did have people in the wrong seats in my business, and that was why maybe stress was happening. That's why tasks were falling through the cracks and things weren't getting done properly. And people would self-select out of jobs. They would move on to other work, other companies, and that was fine. Why not be free to do what it is you wanted to do? And I would then introduce that into some of our coaching clients, and in our mastermind, it would help out with me with coaching when I would learn, hey, this person, you can't push this person to take action in their to-dos, in their goals in this way, Sonia, because they're not going to take action that way. And they can't manage their people on their team if they're not going to take action that way. So learning how to identify what people need to take action, how you take action, how your organization is set up, who's doing what tasks are not being done, when it's time to hire, are all very important key elements in hiring for your team. Another item that I think is really important, I really love Dan Sullivan. If you're an entrepreneur that isn't reading a lot of his books, The Gap and the Gain, 10X is better than 2X, and Who, Not How is one of the most amazing books out there, really identifying who are your who's. It's not necessarily how the job gets done. You can have standardized SOPs that follow your brand promise and all of those things within your organization. That's really important. There should be SOPs for certain things and most things in your business. But if you have that construct within your business and you have that framework and you're like, hey, this needs to be done because of compliance issues and OSHA regulations and all of those different things. But if I can find the who's that know how to do that and they specialize in that work and they're certified and they're trained and they love to do that work because of their Kolby or their background or their education, and I can plug the right who's into my business and then empower them and trust them to do the work, then I don't need to do that. I don't need to micromanage. It makes an organization run so much more smoothly. So a few key things that I would invest in as a business owner, and certainly you can reach out to me for further coaching on that or further advice, is elevate and delegate. Definitely look into understanding what your Kolby is and how to leverage the Kolby A, B, and C in your business, and work with myself or Gail Swift that you can reach through the show notes in previous episodes or through me. And definitely read the book, Who Not How by Dan Sullivan. If you like what you saw today on the Catalyst podcast, make sure you subscribe to our show, like it, and share it with someone who you think might also find value.